USC President Carol Folt has big news for students affecting both fall and spring semesters.
A new USC Dornside poll shows how voters have shifted their views since the first presidential debate.
And the Senate confirmation hearing for Judge Barrett focused on issues ranging from religion to a possible pardon for President Trump. Annenberg TV News is next.
Live from USC, you're watching Annenberg TV News.
So if we had to make the announcement today, we would not be allowed to have students return to campus in the spring.
USC President Carol Folt says students will have to wait at least a few more weeks to learn about the status of the spring semester. I'm Evan Falstrup.
And I'm Olivia Novato. Folt urged students to be patient as USC waits for word from LA officials.
I know you're anxious to hear about our plans for spring. Even though USC is a private institution, we, like all universities in Los Angeles, are bound by the decisions and the restrictions of the LA County health officials. At this point, we still do not have clearance from the county to resume on-campus activities beyond those already approved.
Folt also shared the updated academic calendar for the spring semester. Spring registration will begin October 26th. The first day of the spring semester has been pushed back to January 15th, and classes will conclude on April 30th. May 12th is the final day of the spring semester. President Folt also spoke about the grading system for the fall semester. She said in the video, students will have the option to choose either pass no pass or a letter grade for the fall semester. She also said details will follow very soon in a letter from the provost. USG President GABE Savage reacted to this decision.
All we really did was take a bunch of the student testimony that had been provided for that petition. We created a submission form where you could submit your story to USG and we could take it directly to the provost. It was up for 3 hours before we brought it before the provost, and we had 350 testimonies. It definitely feels good, and I'm just so pleased because I feel like the provost was quite receptive, and that makes me feel good as a Trojan, going to the school, to know that we can approach the provost and have discussions about this and that he'll hear us out.
A petition requesting a pass-no-pass grading option had over 5,000 student signatures. USG has been working closely with USC students to make this initiative happen.
I'm Samantha Moscow reporting from Boston with your daily dose of politics. Former Vice President Joe Biden is solidifying his lead over President Trump with just 20 days until Election Day. That's according to the latest from USC Dornside Daybreak poll. Biden's overall lead climbed from 9 points since the first presidential debate 2 weeks ago to 13 points as of yesterday. 54% of the nation favors Biden compared to 41% for Trump.
In classical statistical terms, if it's outside the gray bar, then essentially you're saying there is at least a 95% chance in this particular case that Biden will win. But he's way outside there. So in terms of popular vote, the probability that Trump will have more votes mid-December than Biden is zero, I think. It's really essentially zero. I cannot imagine that happen. It doesn't mean that Trump wins because, as you know, the Electoral College decides, and so it really matters in which states he wins and loses. So that's a different story. But the probability that he'll win the popular vote, I think, you can just rule that out.
Trump leads 61% to 35% among white people without a college degree, while Biden leads 55% to 41% among white people with a degree. Trump leads among white voters 53% to 43%, while Biden leads among black voters 87% to 7%, and Latino voters 66% to 27%.
The Republicans generally do lead on the economy, but the virus has really taken over. Virus and sort of social calm, unifying the country. These issues have really moved ahead in terms of people's priorities in this election season. So I think the candidates really need to be aware of what's important to people right now and really, make concrete plans to address how they would fix these areas.
The second presidential debate was supposed to be held tomorrow night, but the debate commission canceled it when President Trump refused to participate virtually. You can still watch both candidates tomorrow night in separate town halls, Biden on ABC in Philadelphia and Trump on NBC in Miami.
Republican and Democratic senators clashed during the third day of confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett. Each senator had 20 minutes to question Barrett on her views and track record. Many questions were about Barrett's views on abortion, gay marriage, religion, and the Affordable Care Act. She was also asked whether the president could pardon himself for a crime.
Senator Leahy, so far as I know, that question has never been litigated. That question has never arisen. That question may or may not arise, but it's one that calls for legal analysis of what the scope of the pardon power is. It's not one on which I can offer a view.
The Senate Judiciary Committee is set to vote on Judge Barrett's nomination tomorrow morning. And speaking of voting, young Americans are being encouraged to not only register, but to help with the nationwide shortage of poll workers. Savannah Welch has the story.
Most poll workers are over 60, and many are worried about COVID-19. So, it's Gen Z to the rescue.
I thought it was really important to get as many young people as they could to not only vote, but also help with the polls. And so I thought it would be me doing something for my family, but also to make sure that the election runs smoothly.
AXIDI IGLESIAS works for an election recruitment campaign called the Poll Hero Project. The Princeton University sophomore lives in Orange County, and like so many other students, she's working from home.
So, yeah, that's when I knew democracy was really important to me.
IGLESIAS leads a team of recruiters who connect new poll workers with their local election offices. The project was created by university and high school students to help with the nationwide poll worker shortage.
Right now, we're speeding up our work because we're one more person that you help really does make a difference.
Chloe Smelser is a high school senior who signed up to be a poll worker through Poll Hero.
Here's something, I can do to help, even though I can't vote, I'm helping other people to vote.
Poll Hero is training Alan Martinez to translate for Spanish-speaking voters.
It helps young people become political activists, basically, and get more involved with voting and with advocacy.
So far, Poll Hero has recruited more than 30,000 young workers. Organizations are recruiting as fast as they can because the number of polling places, about 230,000, is more than double what it was in 2016.
You can get paid to help your community exercise their right to vote. You can get paid to protect our future.
Billie Eilish is promoting another poll worker recruitment project called Power the Polls. Co-founder Scott DUNCOMBE works out of his home in the Pacific Northwest.
Having a friendly face there who's a little closer in the empathy gap can really make the process easier and can really make it a little more habit forming, which is really important. That's part of the reason I think it's so important to have poll workers and to be a poll worker, because you got to be that person, you got to be that ambassador that makes democracy easier.
Since recruitment started in June, over 500,000 people have signed up through the project's website. With the election coming soon and the pandemic not going away anytime soon, the need for poll workers is greater than ever. Savannah Welch, Annenberg Media.
Chapman University is fighting a COVID-19 outbreak on campus. The school is located in Orange County, which is a red tier zone, meaning there's a substantial spread of the virus. Chapman's president alerted the community after more than a dozen students tested positive. The outbreak is both on and off campus. 17 students living in dorms, 19 students in off-campus housing nearby, and 1 student from an unknown residence. As of now, no faculty or staff have tested positive. On-campus students are quarantined.
What our campus is doing is make you take your temperature every time before going to class and have a COVID test. Yeah, I think everyone is going to stay safe in the near future.
They've done a lot of stuff. When you do go by campus, you see that they've done a lot. They've set up some different stalls where you could go to the restroom while they don't want you to go enter buildings. They have people wiping down tables at different shifts. So I think they're doing their part.
The school is enforcing mandatory testing in the dorm where the on-campus outbreak started. Affected students are taking classes online until it is safe to return to campus.
I'm Maddie Gannon reporting from Los Angeles. Today, USC football had their first contact practice wearing full pads since fall camp started last Friday. The Trojans' first-year defensive coordinator Todd Orlando said today's practice was crucial in understanding how to best prepare for the season.
Today will be the day. We'll find out, when just the kids are out in the field by themselves and we just let them line up and go play and find out who can tackle people, who can get off blocks, who can separate.
SC's defensive line is facing a big absence from lineman Jay Tufele's decision to opt out of the season to focus on the NFL draft. Defensive lineman Brandon PILI said he is happy for Tufele, but as the veteran senior, he is now carrying a larger burden.
I just feel like I have more accountability to my teammates now to fill that void that Jay left.
The Trojans had just one practice in the spring and started fall camp much later than usual, but defensive line coach Fixa Odo took to Twitter to show the team's determination, writing, "Full pads today, you're either the predator or the prey." USC's football season will kick off on November 7th against Arizona State at the Coliseum. Now let's go to Nevaeh for an update on COVID-19's effect on football around the country.
Thanks, Maddie. The SEC is having a tough week. Alabama announced football head coach Nick Saban tested positive for COVID-19 today. The conference also postponed the LSU-Florida game this Saturday after 21 players tested positive for the virus. This is the second game in the SEC to be rescheduled this week. The SEC released a statement on Twitter announcing the postponement. It said, quote, "The action is consistent with the SEC COVID-19 management requirements. The game is tentatively rescheduled for December 12th. Those who test positive must quarantine for 14 days, and contact tracing requires a 14-day quarantine. Since Florida's team has nearly 24 players who tested positive, next week's game versus Missouri could be in jeopardy. On the professional side of football, the NFL announced today that the 2021 Pro Bowl is officially canceled. This comes during the same week the league hosted a game on Tuesday night for the first time in 70 years. As multiple teams deal with coronavirus cases, the league says that it is adding an 18th week in the NFL season, which could ultimately push back the postseason.
The Los Angeles Dodgers are in the middle of the NLCS, the first MLB series open to the public this year. We talked to a fan who attended Game 1 at the brand new Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas.
You had to buy tickets in groups of 4. What they did is they would put those 4 seats next to each other, but then they would section off every single row so that I think there were only 2 groups of 4 in the entire row. Every other chair that wasn't in use was zip tied. I keep telling everybody, like even with all the caveats, it really felt like a perfect night. It was just so cool to be in there. Both Braves and Dodgers fans there, so you had people heckling both teams.
The World Series will also be held at Globe Life with up to 11,000 fans in attendance. That's all for sports. Let's send it back to Olivia.
The NFL has launched the NFL Votes initiative to encourage players and fans to vote in the upcoming election.
Yo, Deshaun, how about I only block 60% of the time?
All right, big fella. I'm just going to use my left arm for 60% of my passes.
Coach, I'm only showing up for 60% of the practices.
Cool?
I'm only coaching to win 60% of the games anyway.
The message is clear from many athletes and coaches in the NFL as well as the NBA. It's important to vote. We talked to an Annenberg professor about the influence sports figures can have on the election.
I'm sure that many of them are trying to target communities that are underserved or less participatory, or maybe attempting to get their votes suppressed during the election cycle. So to get people motivated, to get people to educate them, motivate them, and teach them how to vote, where to vote, their right to vote is an important thing.
Efforts from professional athletes and USC athletes alike will likely play a role in increased voter turnout in this election.
The Billboard Music Awards are tonight, yet they usually take place in the spring. We talked to a student in the Thornton music industry program about why these awards are such a big deal and what the pandemic has meant for the music business.
The VMAs and the Billboards are both really reputable brands, and it's always great to be lauded for your work. And also you find that a lot of the same artists are winning the Grammys, the VMAs, the Billboard Awards. So there's really not like a huge difference. As an artist, it can be a great way, especially the new artist categories, to get your music to a wider audience, to be exposed to people who don't normally listen to your genre of music.
Well, I think it's super interesting that even though things are super weird this year, the Billboard Music Awards are totally adapting, and I think it'll be interesting to see who the big hits of the night are going to be.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm going to take a look, and I think we should expect to see some new names too.
For sure.
Alrighty, well, that about wraps it up for us this Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in.
From all of us at Annenberg TV News, have a good night.